Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Pitting as a Live Flesh and Blood Call-In Show. I'm joined by my constant co-host, Kevin Smurf Murphy. Kevin, what's up?
We're back.
We're back
Finally.
from the long hiatus. The spiel, I'm gonna go over it this time. I think I'm gonna start skipping it sometimes, but it's a live call-in show. If you'd like to be on air talking to us about your take, join the Discord by clicking on the link that's in the description and Kevin has put in chat. Join the waiting room, put your take in the topics channel. We'll pull you on for a mic check and then put you on air and we'll talk about your take. But first, Kevin, since we've been gone, the best deck is now the worst deck. It got banhammered into oblivion. Someone said that on Twitter.
Oh no.
2/3 of a card got banned?
Yes.
I mean, it's not as bad as like Touch of Autumn, where 1/3 of a card basically got banned. But well, no, some people were playing yellow Touch of Autumns for a time.
Autumn's Touch?
Autumn's Touch. What did I say? Touch of Autumn?
Yeah.
That sounds more like
people were playing 9
aerosol. Were they playing 9? Well, no, I guess
that was like they were a really good card in Starvo.
You know what? I was thinking about it in Oldham. But yeah, in Starvo, Starvo was a deck, wasn't it? I guess we don't talk about that anymore.
Starvo.
Yeah, true, fair.
Yeah, we can absolutely start there. I think this is like another sign that LSS really knows what they're doing with their ban and suspended list. It's for CC at the very least. LL, they're still trying to find their feet, I think, a little bit. But they have constantly impressed me with how precise some of their bans are. And like how those interact with the meta and what it does to decks and what it makes them look like, which like it's really interesting because we've seen a couple of bans where it's like the deck just got better.
Yeah.
Oldham got better, and everyone thought it died when Winter's Wail was banned.
Oh, I miss Winter's Wail.
And like Bullseye Bracer was a very good ban. It was very surgical. Autumn's Touch was very interesting as a Starvo ban because it said you control Starvo gets much less consistent. And that means you're just on Casino Starvo, which means it's a lot more predictable to play him, and like he can't pivot as easily in some of his matchups. Into just random fatigue. And then I think this does something very similar to Zen that it did to Starvo with the Autumn's Touch ban, where it's like you're kind of forcing people onto that Tiger build that you wanted them to be on. Bonds of Ancestry obviously is just an insane card. It's roughly a 0 for 8 at red with Go Again, which is dumb.
Before we get super into that, to keep talking about LSS and bans, one thing that I'm always impressed by, or I'm continually being more and more impressed by LSS, is we're not getting bans like Plunder Run and Drone of Brutality anymore. We're not getting as many
generic bans.
Like this card shouldn't have come out of the shop like this. Duskblade.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
even though some people were calling for some of those on Mistveil release, there aren't any. Like that has not happened, I think, since Tales.
Like
none of those cards, none of those type of bans have happened.
What's the worst card to come out? What's the biggest value card?
But like,
Hypothermia. But I mean,
Hypothermia would not have gotten banned if Icelander wasn't printed, though.
What's the card that would have been banned just for value alone at this point? Like it would have been Codex of Frailty or something like that.
That's probably the closest.
And it's fine.
It is powerful. It is
very powerful.
It's supposed to be powerful. But it's like you get 3 of them. They're also kind of a touch awkward at times.
Yeah.
So like
yellow 2 blocks.
Yellow 2 block, it's fine. It's not crazy good. Tome of Imperial Flame, serious drawbacks. Not crazy good, still powerful. But also like very serious drawbacks. You had to build your deck in a very specific way or things would go wrong. Like this they've learned a lot very quickly in the time that I've been playing the game.
So tell me about the state of Zen, where he was and then where is now, because over this last month we haven't been on as much because I've not been on as much. I've been off my foot. So I've been a little off the meta. I don't know entirely where Zen's at right now. So I have been seeing a lot less of it on Talishar, and that's, I think, all I can say to it.
So I think we saw like the first, we had like Zen release and we had some early decks that were good but not crazy good, and people hadn't quite figured Zen out yet at the time of release. New had put up better results and Enigma put up better results. By the time we get to US Nats 2 weeks later, people have figured Zen out. We put 3 in top 8, 4 in top 8, something like that. And Zen won it. And it was Evan Herndon, and there was it 3 or 4, something like that? I don't know. And the list just kept getting better. By the time we get to Canadian Nats, there are 6 Zen in top 8.
That's a lot of Zen.
That's a lot of fucking Zen. People had kind of figured out just the way things worked, and the Zen started figuring out the new matchup, because like in week 2 of Nat season, we saw New get a big spike in popularity as people realized that New can really be disruptive against Zen and like really slow them down. And then the Zens are like, hang, 1 second. I'm going to adapt a little bit, and then I'm going to put 6 in top 8 of Canadian Nats.
Yes.
And
they got even better, which is actually interesting, because normally the way the metas work is the linear deck comes out really fast, and then other decks slowly learn to So other decks slowly
it took
it out.
Like 2 weeks. Zen jumps up at Nats, drops a little bit, not actually that much. He still won 4 compared to New's 5 the next week. Or maybe that was week 3. And then picked back up and just absolutely like had the most ridiculous like results for Nats. I think on Flesh and Pod, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Vishra was on, and he's the one he makes a spreadsheet every Nats season where he compiles all of the Nats top 8 and participation data. New had the same top 8, top 4, top 2 percentages as Dromai did last year, but more wins.
New had more.
So New is the same as Dromai, but actually converted wins where Dromai didn't. Zen had almost identical stats to Lexi last season.
Wow, it's almost like history repeats itself in a weird way. That's kind of cool, though. In a way, like, does that make it easier to like handle things?
It's a really good indicator.
Yes,
when across the world the deck is doing this well.
Yes.
So before the bans, because you would have like the way Zen kind of worked, the baseline was just you have your armor shove turn, it makes a tiger in hand, which you get to banish for Art of War, so you just go +1 card. And then you have your traverse that gets you a chi that lets you also just go +1 card. The problem was you had, in addition to that turn, you'd have a random 7 chain link turn because you can run 9 Bonds of Ancestry. And it could happen before that, it could happen after that.
And you had to borrow your neighbor's playmat in order to keep playing the game.
So like he just got 2 power turns every game if the first one wasn't for 50.
Yeah.
Ancestral Harmony is a crazy good high roll card. It is a blue block 3 that also gets Codex rate if it hits. Ancestral Harmony drawing a Bonds of Ancestry is really good, it turns out. Wild. 0 cost blue block 3 also enables Transcends. Very good.
Yeah. Because it's sometimes it's awkward with some of the Transcend cards, because it's cards that you want to play later, like the blue cards you want to do different things with. But that's something you want to start your turn with anyways, so you know what options you have.
Yep.
And so you buff everything, and so it just ends up being insane with all the Wait, when did that card that came out a while ago, right? That came out in...
It was Heavy Hitters expansion slot.
They're thinking ahead. They already know. Big brains.
So, like, that's kind of what Zen looked like, is he would have 2 power turns and you pretty much just die between from one of those power turns or both. And that's because he had 9 bonds. The bonds could recycle each other, and like shifting winds let you also just have more Descendant Gust waves, where you just say, I'm going to play this card, pitching a chi. I'm going to put 2 Descendant Gust waves in my hand, and the bonds are now live.
It's so insane, like how it can like kind of course correct an entire turn, or it almost as if, I think someone said that there's no clunky hands. There is, but there are a lot of hands that you look at them and you're like, this looks clunky, but then you play it out and it just kind of it smooths itself.
It fixes itself a little bit too well sometimes.
So how's the deck now?
So what happens now is it still has its power turn. It still has red bonds of ancestry. It still gets to tutor them. Turns out that's also really good for your consistency, is when you can just put the card you need in your hand.
Turns out tutors are busted. Who would have thought?
Yeah. They're really good for consistency in aggro combo decks. So you still can have like a 40 plus damage turn fairly reasonably when you shove your fridge in front of something and you go Art of War, Ancestral Harmony, and it hits. You're still going to have that turn. What this ban means is you don't have a random double or triple bonds turn without that. Because you literally just don't have that many bonds of ancestry in your deck.
I think it's really interesting having just the red up, because it gives you that option and it gives other decks that option, while also it puts a hamper on using it like a crutch, right? Like you have to use it as a core piece. I think you said it. Someone called it a majestic, right? Yes. It's almost as if it's a red majestic now, and I think that's really cool.
It into a majestic, because majestic only come in one color.
Yeah, red. Like this time, in this instance, red. That's sick.
Yeah. So they just said this is too powerful. It spikes too hard. They said specifically that their meta, their internal testing meta was a little skewed because Zen had to change so many times. The new decks were figured out.
Yeah, I heard that. Yes.
So then the Zen decks were contesting fully fleshed out new decks, and they ended up going a different path because of that. And they didn't end up with just like Rainbow Bonds decks. They started out more mid-rangey and defensive.
Does that imply new isn't figured out yet?
I don't think so.
Or
I think it's because, like, imagine new came out in Heavy Hitters.
Okay.
And then Zen came out in Mistveil.
Okay.
That's what happened. So then you have new going into US Nats with her week 2 and 3 performance. But Zen with still his US Nats performance.
Okay. All right.
That's what what happened.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Interesting.
Which, like, yeah, I think this puts the deck in a much more manageable place as an aggro combo deck. They're gonna, I think all the Zen decks are gonna look a touch more mid-rangey. I'll be very curious to see if people still bring Needles or Talishar or what.
Needles was so cool. Seeing Zephyr, I don't think we talked about that. Seeing Zephyr Needles on screen, I freaked out. I thought that was awesome.
That's how aggressive that deck was. They were bringing Zephyr Needles against KO. Against KO.
Against KO. They were like willingly like, okay, spend an entire card on my weapon.
Yeah. So that I can give me a card. That card means you lose the game because you're down 2 cards.
But also, if you don't take 4 damage, I pitched a card.
Like you see that in all the like Zen mirrors, the Zens were like, I can't block this.
It's like almost a Rosetta in that sense. It's like so good.
Yeah. It was great tech. And I think there will be significantly less of it. I think a lot of people will end up back on the Crouching Emberblade.
Ashenwing says it's really interesting, or how wild how Enigma became not so scary and Zoo and Zen shot up to the top tables. I thought when I saw New and how she worked, I was like, this is a top tier deck eventually, right? Sure. But I was also surprised how quick Enigma seems to have fallen off. I mean, I'm sure she's a reasonable deck you can play, but like, you can play it. I think
I don't know many people are.
You just play Prism, right? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know many people who are taking Enigma to PT. The Zen matchup is that bad.
I also think I love hearing about this in the context of PT because the people going to PT won something. They know a thing or two. They won something at minimum, in my opinion, right? It's not literally open. And so like
the PT meta and the calling meta at Amsterdam are going to look very different.
Yes, exactly. So I'm very interested to what the PT meta looks like.
So like Enigma's problem is just she is a very good, consistent value deck. She's
who if you played Enigma,
she's like Bravo.
I was about to say, if you played Enigma and then you are like, I gotta fall back onto a different deck, it's Guardian, right? Like so it's a value.
It depends. Because like, I know Guardian players who went to Enigma.
Oh, and
I know Prism players who went to Enigma. And they're going to go back to their respective lanes.
I wonder if the Prism people went for flavor reasons, because I definitely feel like, because I thought Enigma seemed super cool, as I'm going to call myself a Victor player, as opposed to Bravo. Bravo still exists forever. But
yeah, because he's not doing anything right now.
Exactly. Right. And so I think Enigma is Hacker says Enigma is pretty scary. I think Enigma is scary to certain decks in the same way Victor is scary to certain decks.
Yeah. Sort of.
But in the similar sense that they have polarizing matchups. If that's the similar sense.
Nope.
Would you say that? No, you wouldn't. Nope. Okay, what would you say?
I don't think Victor's matchups are that polarized.
Really? Okay.
No.
How
Enigma's matchups are way more polarized than Victor's.
That I would believe.
So Enigma is fundamentally Enigma says you must be able to present this much damage to me per turn.
Yes.
Otherwise, I win the game.
Sounds pretty Guardian.
That's Guardian. That's not Victor.
I guess no. Yeah, I guess you're right. Right.
Victor is not that.
Victor's value king.
Yes. He is value king, and he says if you can't deal with the value I get from block cards, then I win.
Yeah.
But Enigma is purely if you can present this much damage to me, you win. Otherwise, I win. That's it. Which is why Zen is a miserable matchup for Enigma. Because Zen just says, that's how much you want me to do? Okay.
Yeah. Done.
That's my that's my floor. like Enigma literally shouldn't exist with 9 Bond Zen being a deck.
And I think also it's clear to point out, right? So if people are like Enigma's scary and you're thinking from the perspective of certain decks, from like a competitive standpoint, typically when you look at a meta, you'll start at the most aggro deck and you'll work your way out. And from that sense, if you want to say, is Enigma scary, you have to start with Zen and then you have to work your way around, right? And so is Enigma scary into Zen? No. So from a competitive sense, she's not scary. There are other decks that fit into the meta triangle that might be upset if they get paired into an Enigma at a big event. But
I think there's going to be at least 6 or 7 decks with more representation than Enigma at PT.
Or a Prism feels like a hybrid list.
Yeah, so like a hybrid list like Austin's list that also top-aided US Nats is a very interesting list. His list is very interesting. It's the big dragon of Prism.
Well, that already is interesting.
It is the big dragon of Prism, and that analogy is too apt.
If I
like, but
yeah, if I had the time to put into a game, I feel like either I would find myself going down one of two paths, which is like super combo wizard or big aura. Big dragon, big ally, big aura. I feel like I would end up falling down one of those two paths if I spent a lot of time on this game.
Sure.
Though I do also like Victor a lot. But I think that Victor is just easier for Armory champion. Champion's the wrong word. Armory.
Yeah.
Armory, whatever.
Yeah. I can't think of the word either.
There's an expression. I can't think of what it is.
Yeah. Armory.
But, yeah. And Victor's just better for me personally right now. But we were talking about Zen and how he is right now.
Yeah,
right?
He is still the best deck. I think he's tier 0.5 now instead of tier 0. Where stuff can beat it.
Were you putting him in like tier 0 S tier beforehand?
Yeah,
I guess
he was
so.
tier 0.
That's
he was
so
absolutely
crazy
tier
to think
0.
About.
Like just watch Canadian Nats. He's tier 0.
I did watch all of Canadian Nats, but not necessarily for the gameplay. There was a really cool segment in it. I don't know if you caught it. But Canadian Nats was super cool. Seeing all the Zens was very interesting, but I hadn't had my feet that much in CC, so I couldn't tell how big the gap was. Because I feel like playing against the deck more, I would have felt how big the gap was against certain decks.
If you played like 4 or 5 games of it and you were not on the most aggressive version of Victor, you would have had a bad time.
I was on a pretty aggressive version. I think I was running
Snapdragons and Exude Confidence aggressive.
I had no, I didn't have Exude, but I did have Snaps and at 1.5 pump. No, at 1.6 pummels, right? So,
sure. Okay.
6 pummels snaps. That's as aggressive as I got. Exude, I haven't heard. That's actually really funny and interesting. I like that one.
Because so what's happening is Victor gets to like 6 gold.
Yeah.
And then he just gets to dump his hand
and cashes it in.
And goes to like 6 cards and then Exude Confidence and just pumps it to the moon. After a gold main estate as well. So it starts at like 10. Which means they already can't de-reactor instant.
I wish Final Act was a generic. Unrelated.
Yeah, bro.
Final Act is a
Victor would run 3 of that card.
I think instantly. It's flavorful too, because he is a very dramatic, as most of the Guardians are. He's a very, well, I shouldn't say most, as some of the Guardians are, he's a very dramatic person. And so I think that would have been great.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's gonna be Zen's probably gonna be the most represented hero still. He's very good. He is not really moved off like off the top. Some people are saying that this is a Hogak situation where they ban the other thing and the deck gets more consistent because of it. And
Hogak was bad though. Okay, well, go ahead.
It's possible. Because you kind of change some of the pieces that are just a little bit more consistent go again pieces. Like I've seen some lists that are on like 6 spinning wheel kick, which are just decent like turn to turn cards that are not heavy combo-y. But you still have Art of War and Ancestral Harmony, and you still have 3 Bonds of Ancestry. They're going to let you go absolutely insane on that turn.
Yeah.
But I think Zen is still the best deck. I know a lot of top players are still on it, and I know a lot of top players switched to it because they couldn't reliably beat it.
Well, yeah, I did hear about that, but that was for Nationals. Do you still feel that way? Are people jumping off of it for PT?
They're jumping onto Zen.
Onto Zen for PT.
Onto Zen.
Holy frick. Now, I do think and I think we're getting, I don't know, but I feel like I've definitely heard a lot of people talk about new, but I don't feel I've heard many people say, frick, I mean, I have to play new at PT now or something like that. I don't feel like I hear a lot of people who are like,
nope, nobody's saying
slam new. Now they might be saying it behind closed doors, like teams bring it or something. They're going to be
saying it because they're also saying I don't want to play Zen. They're not saying it because new is a better deck.
That makes a lot of sense because that really wraps it all up together, right? Because it is the people who are like, I don't want to play the linear deck in a format. Like I'm not the linear deck
I don't want to play. Yeah,
but
it's
that is the deck right now. You have to play that.
It's the people who refuse to play Boros Burn.
Exactly. They don't want to play that, but they know they have to play around it.
Like I genuinely think Zen is the number one most represented. I think new is second. KO, Azalea are third, fourth.
I would, as someone who's not a professional player and didn't test for this and knows very little about the meta, I would probably bring new. This is great opinions that people need to know.
You've played one game of CC new.
I played one game of CC new, and I was like, yeah, I can get behind this. It was good. It felt a lot like Ranger in a way, but I guess Assassin does. So
she's not a Ranger, she's a Runeblade.
Runeblades aren't super known for their on hits.
You're right.
Which is how I felt about it, but it
is extremely dependent on her reaction and attack ratio.
It's like a Runeblade Ranger.
Like a Runeblade with their non-attacks and their attacks, and how Azalea is also very like a Runeblade with her non-attacks and her attacks.
It feels cool. I like it. I don't know. It feels cool.
She's super interesting.
I get some hands. In the one game I played, I'd get some hands, and I'm like, oh, I can see all the potential. Like there's a bunch of different
18
options.
things this turn, and it'll deal 12 damage.
Yes, I can move so many cards in my hand.
It'll also take 3 cards out of their hand.
True. That's the hype part. Playing the headpiece.
Yeah.
Everything else is just trying to get to playing the headpiece. Not 100% true, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's new will at the very least be second most represented. I don't think she will be first. I think Zen. I think we reached a place where Zen knows how to play that. The Zen players will know how to play that matchup, and they will be fine doing it. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people jumping onto new who were not already on it. Warmongers doesn't really do anything against new. She doesn't care. The only thing it might stop is Codex.
New plays Warmongers.
She can. She probably does against Azalea. I don't see why she would.
I don't see why you wouldn't put it in
Codex to daggers.
Right? I guess so.
Probably. I don't know. I have not paid attention to that in particular.
Okay, so we were talking about how Ancestral.
I do think there will be more Prism than Enigma.
Well, yeah, I think so too. Prism's actually kind of a nutso deck, as Prism likes.
Prism's in a very interesting spot.
Which is always the best time to bring her. When she's in an interesting spot. Because if she's in a good spot, that might be a bad time to bring her.
Yes, actually. She's a very targetable deck.
Almost like Kano, where it's like you want to bring them at the interesting times.
Except more so.
Kano's
not super targetable right now. It's really not healthy.
I love it. No, I love it. I'm so excited. That's the real exciting thing about PT is I actually have money on 6 Kanos in top 8. It's actually 6 of the 7 Kanos in top 8.
And you can list them all by name.
Yeah, sure.
Except they all have to draft is the problem.
Oh no! The weakness. Okay, I have them all in the top 8 of the calling.
There it is. And we were talking about Ancestral Harmony being
stupid, or not stupid. It is stupid. As a blue block 3, enables turns, enables transcends. It's really strong.
Yep.
Because for the same reason that I think, moving into topic 2, which is Mystic is kind of like the new Ice. Good blues make a deck.
So
do a deck make.
I'm gonna put a little asterisk here.
Okay.
Ice is not blue matters. Mystic is blue matters. Ice happened to have very good blue cards. Some of which were also only really good because Icelander could play them as instants.
That's neat, right? Because that just implies that all the elements were never colors matters. In some sense, they were a little bit when they came out, because like the lightning was more
flavorfully themed around colors. They were not color matters.
They were not necessarily synergistic matters, right?
Light,
in the same way, light or
light
draconic.
is yellow matters, draconic is red matters, and mystic is blue matters.
When are we going to get colorless matters? Is all I'm saying. Shout out to Gorganian Tome, and
that's just Ravenous Rabble.
I keep forgetting about that interaction. It's so hype. I think I had that happen
good
because I've been practicing a little bit of Blitz because I know I'm going to be at a skirmish, and I was thinking about Briar because cards are cheap for Briar right now. Not in CC, cheap enough. And I had that interaction happen. It's great. But we were talking about blue matters in. I was saying. Mystic is the new Ice, which isn't true. Is what you were saying.
I understand. Yeah, I'm putting an asterisk on it because it's not because of Ice, and it's not because of what Ice did to the game. It's because Ice happened to have some very powerful cards that happened to be blue. Because we've had powerful cards that are in. There are other powerful cards in Ice that are not blue. Red Arctic Incarceration was absolutely fucking a house in Lexi.
Yes.
Lexi didn't play blue Ice cards really a ton. She played some, but she didn't play them because they were Ice cards. Like Red Arctic Incarceration and Blue Winter's Bite are just wildly different cards. But Icelander getting to play Channel Lake Frigid as an instant because it was blue was really good. Getting to play Amulet of Ice because it was blue as an instant was really good. We just cheated action points on Ice cards forever. That being said, Mystic is a blue matters talent.
Yes.
All of the stuff that came out in this set is good blue cards.
Yeah.
And then we have cards like Just a Nick that turn your blues into reds.
It's so strong.
And then give the +3. And the blue by itself, Bonds
it's so
is a
big.
0 for 4.
Yes. And it gives and also Just a Nick adds an on hit effect as if it didn't just.
Yeah.
It's so big.
Yeah. So
there
made
were
a
lot
matter
of
set.
Yeah, there were a lot of strong blue Majestics in Ice, and I think that's where people confuse it as blue matters, and also Icelander was blue matters in her
Icelander
text.
Was blue matters, not Ice.
Not Ice, because Hypothermia, Channel, Blizzard, these were all really good blue Majestics.
Eternal.
Yeah, but
they were not. That was because of Icelander, not because of the element Ice. But if we're talking about the reason Mystic is so good is because you got powerful blues. Yeah.
Yes.
100%. That's going to help your deck be more consistent.
Playing new, and I draw
especially over a tournament, not just in a game.
The consistency matters so much in a tournament.
Yeah, for 8 rounds of CC, that matters a lot.
11.
So when your blues are hitting like that,
yeah, it feels good.
It's the reason Guardian, especially Oldhim, was so good for so long is because his blues were really good. Cranial Crush as a 3-card 8 is actually just good in late game. And then you have Terra Sunder And then you have Rouse the Ancients.
Yeah, you have
A
like
2-card 7 go
super
again.
good,
At
super
blue.
good blue Majestics, but like the commons were good, right? Or
Yeah.
I don't remember if it's a common or rare, but like
They were fine.
Glacial Footsteps.
Yeah, common.
It's another blue.
It's a cranial crush that you can occasionally give dominate.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. Like
in the same sense, playing new earlier, and I draw a blue infect that swings for 1 on hit blood rot, and I'm like, let's go! Got my
that's a
infect
blue 0 for 3.
Blue 0 for 3 that synergizes with the rest of the deck, because that's the disgusting part about the matters is
yes,
when your blues are as strong as everything else, and then they buff each other is so insane.
Yeah.
It's so good. In a similar sense to how some people felt about Ice. However, I know some people it's kind of bait, because when I say Mystic is the new Ice, what people actually think when they think of Ice is they played Channel Lake on me. Yeah, active disruption. Where there is disruption in specifically new, but
that's not because Mystic.
That's not Mystic. That's new being
which there is like one Mystic there's all the Mystic Assassin cards are attack reacts.
I can confirm that. Give me a second.
All the other cards are just generic assassin.
That's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
What? Let's see.
Because like Siren's Call is kind of a messed up card. Attack reacts. Yeah, all the Mystic Assassin cards are attack reacts except for Sacred Art, which makes 2 attack reacts.
No, I guess it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Like Siren's Call is an insane card.
Which is kind of cool. I think it's a neat direction to take the class.
But like they got like their 2 Majestics that they got in Assassin are Bonds of Agony and Persuasive Prognosis, and then their last Majestic is just a Nick, which says play this on your blue stealth cards.
Just a Nick's so good.
It's I keep saying this. I underestimated the shit out of this card. I'm just like, all right, sure, it turns your blue into a red. Yeah, that's really freaking good. It turns out.
When I saw that card, I was like, 0 for 5. I don't care what the blue does anymore.
Yeah, it was like 0 for 5, but you have to put it on a 1, so it's a 2-card 6, and it's like, well, yeah, and then it's also on hit discard a card from their hand.
And then also it gives it an on hit too, and
no, I underestimated that card. I fully admit.
I didn't give it what it was due, but I also I thought it was fine, but it's more than fine. Yeah, Mystic pretty good.
So like they made a blue matter set. They gave it powerful cards, because you can make a blue matter set that doesn't do a ton, but they gave them good cards. Turns out they're gonna do well. If Ancestral Harmony was a yellow instead of a blue, it would be a decent bit worse.
I will say, so in chat, we did talk a little bit, or in the chat, they've been talking a little bit about spoilers for Rosetta. There's not enough of Rosetta for me to give any kind of speculation. Like people are speculating, but like nothing with a solid, educated guess, because there's just not enough to go off of yet.
Yeah,
life gain's gonna happen. Amp is a keyword.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it.
We have life gain stuff.
I'm excited for it.
We have other stuff with Decompose.
Decompose,
which, like,
is cool.
Felling of the Crown is a really interesting card.
I think I've never been a huge like delve graveyard matters kind of person. I know a lot of people are, because it's cheating in a different kind of way, which people always love to do.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to be a really hype in draft specifically. It's not my thing. Or I say that now. I don't know. Ellis is going to come out with something that's going to be super hype.
Yeah,
but
we'll see. I think we get all the hero techs next week at Amsterdam, so I'm very
Earth Runeblade has the coolest looking borders of any hero and talent in Germinate. It's just the best looking border.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that just looks
Yeah,
hype.
that goes hard. It's super dope.
So I think that's all we're gonna say about that now until more stuff comes out.
Yeah.
Hot take: Florian is chain. He just found his calling an Arya.
Nope.
Nah, I think chain
I'm
is
just gonna
like,
say nah.
I forgot where like what chain is up to right now in the lore. But I don't think it's good for chain. Like I think it's bad for like he's in not a fun spot
He's
right now.
either dead or like fully banished and like doing nothing. He's out of the story, I'm pretty sure.
Doing the laundry for some demon or something.
Urser.
Yeah. So we'll get to that on another episode because I'm interested. The mechanics are interesting, and it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they meld together, which I think is something they do really well when they make sets.
Yeah, I mean, like they nailed synergies in this set. Like this set is so dependent on your cards synergizing with each other. Especially contrasted to heavy hitters where it was extremely value based. And this set is just not raw value. You have to build a deck with the intent to maximize the cards you have drafted already.
I think the next set will probably be similar just because of the mechanics, right? You're going to want like mechanic synergy. Yeah.
and
it's Runeblade. And it's Runeblade. So,
like it's a Runeblade set and it's a Wizard set, but what we've seen is like very, very interesting with the way everything interacts.
We'll see how it turns out. I'm
excited.
Other thing I was going to talk about was I want to talk about, speaking of future products. Actually, I guess it's a present product. It already came out. The Boltyn deck.
Yes.
To which I'm pretty sure, I haven't asked because I've been out of commission, but I'm pretty sure it's $35 at my LGS for what I would consider very well constructed beginner CC deck.
Yeah.
This is something like, so I took the KO deck to a Battle Hardened. So I took it to a Battle Hardened.
You played it at the Super Armory at least.
I played it at the Super Armory. That's what I did. At least I brought it to the Battle Hardened and then played a bunch of side events with it. And I took it to several armories where I just pulled it out of the box and played it out of that.
Yep.
Oh, there was the whole thing. I took it to the Super Armory and I didn't bring a deck box and I didn't bring
sleeves.
I didn't bring sleeves. Yes, you're right. I didn't bring sleeves. And some people were very upset about that. And some people thought it was very, very funny. Yes, one person got particularly very upset about it.
Yeah,
however,
dude, holy. I was like, okay, you need to chill. This is the point where I'm going to say you don't get to say what he does with his cards, especially a $40 CC deck. This is not
for me.
This is not a single-sleeved cold foil Heart of Fjendal or like Wyatt has a gold foil Ember Blade that he just has double sleeved on the table. Like
brought that to the Super Armory, and I don't remember what I did. I think I got 2 wins or something like that. It wasn't an impressive showing, but at the end of each of the game, it either came down to me making a mistake to why I lost, or my high roll didn't go off, or their high roll did go off. It felt like all the games were close.
They were real games.
Not close. Yeah, they're real games. That's it, right? It's not close in a Flesh and Blood game where like it gets down to the opponent's like, I had you at 1 health, and you're like, sure. And then I threw 5 cards at you, and you can't win.
5 cards left.
Yeah, so it's not one of those games. They were real games that came down very tight margins. And I loved playing that KO deck. And looking at the Boltyn deck, it has that same level of like precision in card choice, where it's like it has a very consistent, obvious, strong game plan, and it's going to try it. So see how it does against your deck. And
I think it's matching the KO deck actually very reasonably in power level. From looking at some of the cards, which is really interesting because they have.
Is there videos? No, LSS made a video where they played them against each other.
Yeah. Like,
I wonder if that was
the
first
Vanguard's
strike.
in there, Lumina's in there. Like,
Lumina's in there. I thought was very important.
These are very reasonable cards to have in
Raiden.
this deck.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it
a
was all
Raiden
good.
deck. I think this is a totally reasonable $40 CC starter deck.
I had a comment on
Established
Twitter.
players can also have one of these and one of the KO decks, and they're gonna do well into each other. And I am willing to bet that the Azalea Armory deck is going to be similar, and you can put these kind of against each other.
Do you think they'll put blues in the Azalea deck?
Yes. I don't know if they'll put knock. They're at the very least going to put Spire Sniping.
Fair enough. No, yeah, I'll blue Spire Sniping. Because I was just thinking about how, the Boltyn deck, in one way that it's really tuned to the point where it's like focused, which is great for newer players, is there's no blues in it, which is super hype.
Yes.
There's only reds and there are definitely decks of Azalea that have been played where they had no blues in them.
It's the only blue would be knock, but yes.
Yeah. Well, that's essentially no blues.
More or less. I will say, of the reds, there's 10 red cards in the Boltyn deck, and 2 of them are 1 cost and the rest are 0 cost. And that's really good.
Yeah, that's really tight.
That's this is very in line with what they were talking about. They wanted the KO deck to do, which is it does the same thing every time. It doesn't miss on its discards ever because it can't. And this just kind of says I can always play something from my hand.
Yeah, I think it's really
reds
good.
Are 0 cost. Like
yes.
I'm
if you have to block with 3 cards and throw Snatch, some people would say that's one of the strongest things you could do in Flesh of Blood.
That's a perfectly really reasonable hand. Especially against an Armory deck.
I asked Twitter, and @Mecropotent told me in great length, to be fair, that their only criticism was one of the bannerets could have been a different banneret. And if that's your only criticism, that's really good.
Yes. Like I'm down if they wanted to make one of these bannerets, like, because they took 2 of the rare bannerets, which are just not as good as the Majestic ones, because the Majestic ones are the ones that make Courage and Quicken, and these are ones that are like +1 block and gain a resource on hit, which are substantially worse than Courage or a Quicken.
I don't know how many Majestics the KO deck has, but this one, I guess, technically has 11, if you count the equipment and weapon.
Oh.
3/3.
Sure, yeah.
3/3,
2 play sets of
4 and 1. 2 play sets, all the equipment and the weapon.
That's pretty close to what the KO deck had. It's not far off. But I think anyone who has any complaints about this deck is
that's kind of why we brought it up, was there have been complaints about the deck, right?
And there's such small complaints and critiques. Like, they're so minimal compared to like all the upside of it. Like, the upside of this is they made a really good product, a really good starter product, I think. And like they put Luminas in, they put Via the Vanguard in. They gave you a chess piece that can use Via the Vanguard really well. Like,
so if you look at the deck list on Fabrary, you can look at the pricing to see how much the deck costs. If you ignore Saving Grace and the equipment, and you get the cheapest printing possible, it's like $10.
Yeah, it's gonna be $10.
It's like $10, but that's kind of what you expect. It's mostly It's mostly the way TCGs work. Like, rares and commons are pennies. Majestics can range from anywhere from like $1 to 40 to 100. It just depends, and they're not going to put huge ones in it, right? So like their biggest cards are Sink Below and Lumina Ascension. But like, if I pay $35 at my LGS because me and my LGS owner are homies, or let's say the average person pays 40.
Yeah.
$30 to get a, you get a box that it comes in. It considering the fact that you have to like produce this production and ship it out, right?
Yeah.
So it all comes packaged together. You get equipment that's unique to only this.
You get equipment and cards that are unique to only this, and Saving Grace is roughly equivalent to Soul Shield.
Saving Grace is really good. In some cases it's better. In some cases it's worse, but in any sense it's still really good.
Yes.
I don't know. I think this deck is just absolutely solid, and for what I'd pay for a Precon, I think it's completely fine. Am I picking this one up? Because I picked up the KO deck. No. Because this is for me personally. My budget is I afford one class, and I afford one class, and I chose Guardian, and so I just buy Guardian stuff. And then except the KO deck, but the other expense that I will spend on cards is for drafting, which I think is the best way to play Flesh of Blood, and stuff related to the channel, related to content.
Sure.
And though the KO deck wasn't really in a video, understanding what I'm getting out of it and how it feels to play gave me a good perspective on the deck. It gave me a better perspective about these armory decks in general. Because I feel like I would have had a different opinion. I would have had a different opinion if I didn't actually get my hands on it and play a lot of games of it. I played like 20 games with it. I don't know. I don't think I'm picking up the Boltyn deck because I am recognizing the same patterns as the KO deck, and the KO deck was great in my book. When they come out with a Guardian one, I'm getting that one. Are you getting any of these CC decks? I assume you don't need them because you kind of have your lane and you buy what you need for certain things.
Yeah, I am still picking them up. Just because I keep them together as
like collectible. Almost.
It's not a collectible, but like this is like if I'm going to teach someone how to play and I want to hand them a CC deck and not a Blitz deck.
Fair. That's fair.
This is what I hand them.
That's good.
So
you bring it. Also, would you say you bring it with you to places? What, like an armory, I guess?
Not usually an armory, because anyone who's at that armory and looking to play will have bought their own.
That makes sense.
But this is
more like playing with friends.
Yeah, a friend has said, "Hey, I want to try the game," and this is a deck that I can reasonably hand them. Is not going to be too complicated. Like the decks that I have built on me in my backpack right now are Prism and Kano. Those are not good decks for teaching people the game.
No.
Boltyn and KO are much better for teaching people the game.
Yes.
So, yeah. I'm still going to be picking them up for that, as well as like Solar Plexus might get played in Prism. That might get played in Blitz Prism.
It looks really good, and I just played a game of Prism versus Prism Blitz, and they played Solar Plexus, and in response, I played Arclight Sentinel, and that was very funny for me. But that's a very niche case. When I saw them play it, I went, "Oh, frick," because it could have been a problem fast.
Yeah, making War Tune 0 cost is pretty good, it turns out.
Yeah, Solar Plex is very strong. All right, I think good. Yeah, I think the last thing I was going to talk about is you mentioned you got Kano and you got Prism packed up, and you're packed up for Amsterdam, I assume.
Mostly.
Well, I guess you have a few events this weekend, but then you're going to Amsterdam.
Yeah, I have like armories this weekend, but yeah.
But at Amsterdam, you may be playing, depending on how hot your weekend is. You may be playing in the LL event, and you're bringing a deck for the LL event.
Yes.
Are you confident in that? Where's LL at right now?
I I don't think anyone really knows where LL fully is. There aren't enough events. Some people are going to have better ideas now that there's also skirmishes for it. But until we have like a calling or two that we regularly know will be LL,
like every other month or something like that.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 of them a year, I would say.
Okay.
People aren't gonna. It's not gonna be a real format. I still think that the best way to make LL a real format, quote unquote, is to have it be part of Worlds. That makes it real easy. It's better. Everyone would like it more than Blitz. I guarantee that.
Absolutely.
All that being said, where I think LL is at the moment is I think Ice Lexi is like the best deck by at least a little bit.
That's really
she
cool.
did very well in LA, and not many people were on her. She just got Channel Lake Frigid back as a 3 of, which gives her a very good Runeblade
really
matchup.
Strong card. Yeah.
That's really good for Runeblade.
Really
she also gets to play Hypothermia.
That's a real card.
A pretty good card against Runeblade's like chain.
It does make me wonder how many and I compare it to Magic because Magic is the biggest card game. How many in Magic's prime, how many tournaments they were having of Legacy in a given year? Because I think that would be interesting to compare that to.
Yep.
I wonder how much it was, right? So like, were they having a Legacy event every month?
They might have been, but I don't know how many events they were running. I know there are at least a couple that like I've gone back and watched.
Getting there. So
I would be down to see it be there. It's really interesting. There's probably like 4, 5, 6 viable decks at the moment, like solid decks.
Is there any coverage of
Zen
it?
Gets stubbies.
Zen gets stubbies.
Zen gets stubbies.
Is it still...
and 9 bonds again?
Is Stubbies more busted in Fi or Zen?
Zen.
I guess so. That makes sense.
Bro, okay. You get to tutor a bonds, which is 2 chain links, because you can get a yellow one that Stubbies hits and turns into a red one. Your ability also makes a Crouching Tiger that is another +1 from Stubbies.
Stubbies is power 3 or less. It's not 2 or less.
Yeah, it's 3 or less. Zen gets Belittle.
Oh, as if Zen didn't need another tutor.
Zen gets Belittle. He gets 9 bonds and he gets Stubbies. I think that's a pretty real deck. And I've got some funny cards because of it. I have some funny cards set aside. So I guess for the people who may not know somehow.
Yeah.
I'm an Icelander main at heart.
Which is a funny thing to say in the year of our Lord 2024. But go on.
So I have some funny cards in my deck box with me.
I know one of them. I was gonna say that. Channel the Blink Expanse.
3 copies of Channel Blink Expanse.
I remember Ridge specifically telling me how frustrated he was when he saw that card because he was like, "What a dog water card to be printed. When is that ever gonna have any use?"
That's the hero that draws a lot of cards and searches their deck a lot. You can't traverse when this is out on the field.
That's so crazy.
So here's the other thing. I'm playing no attack actions against them. So if they present Traverse, they'll never trigger it at all.
Oh my god, that's funny. Oh, that's hype. Holy frick. It's a 2-block. It's a dead card. It's a dead
equipment piece.
It's a dead piece of equipment.
If they present it. Which they may not. I've played one test game and Tim was already like, I'm not going to bring that. That sounds like a bad idea.
That's really funny.
So I'm excited to play Icelander again, and I've got my alt art Channel Lake Frigids.
I'm disappointed that you won't get to play Icelander again after you top 8.
Oh no!
Insert event here. So
yeah, other event here where I get to play Prism.
yeah,
Sure.
Your floor for the event is you get to play your main.
I get to play Icelander again.
Yeah, you get
At,
to play
like
Icelander again.
above the power level that she was at when she LL'd.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's gonna be strong. I think everything else will also be strong, but it'll be interesting. Is there coverage of LL? Like, can I watch people?
So I think there was coverage of the finals
That's
of
not
LL
enough for me to get a feeling for the format.
I agree. The problem is there's also the finals of the PT happening the same day, and then the finals of the calling happening the same, or the top 8 of the calling happening the same day.
We need to get a billionaire.
Like 5 streams.
We need a billionaire to start funneling money into Mansant, and then he can hire me. No, that's unrelated. And then we need all the content, dude. I was going back and rewatching like 2017 Magic yesterday, or earlier this week, and they had like 6 like set cameras, like proper on-set cameras. They had 4 main stage tables, each with their own overhead cameras.
Bro, I
and one
love
thing
that.
I really liked is they had a mobile camera that was able to get the different emotions of the players, and that's the next thing I want to see is like, so we have like hand cam, which is really important, and we do have player face cam, but like sometimes like players would go into the tank and they'd go to face cam and you could just watch that person just like go through the 7 stages of grief,
the 5 stages of grief,
the 5 stages of grief because their opponent just played I don't actually remember what format I was watching.
Yeah.
Oh, I typed in Jeskai Control, and I was watching, I think it was Kanza Tarkir, and that's when people were still playing it, even though the premier deck was something else. I forgot what it was. People were still trying to play it.
I don't know.
No, the one where I saw someone break down was they found out their opponent was on eggs, which that is just an awful deck to have to play against. You just sit down and you see someone go prismatic star or whatever, and then you're just like, frick, I gotta sit through this guy playing Kano in a top 8 event. Which was very funny. That aside, I'm super excited for PT.
I want to get to the point where we have 4 feature match tables, and then we can really cool. Day 2 we can have a calling table and 3 PT tables.
They had a stage set up with a bunch of benches for people to sit on, and they had all the tables spread out, and so you're watching the main event game, and in the background. I'm going to use Flesh and Blood analogies. You're watching the Michael Hamilton game, and in the background, you can see Mara destroying somebody else so they can get up and go like this after the game or something. And it's so cool, and I'm excited for Flesh and Blood to get there. Just need more money, and we need more players. We need both of those things.
I want to see the last day of coverage be top 8 of PT at one table, and then at the next section of table, like in a distinctly, like they just have 2 of those viewing areas set up, and one is the PT and one is calling Battle Hardened for day 3. Like, so you have 2 watching the calling, and you have 1 watching the Battle Hardened, and when the calling goes to top 8, it goes to one of the tables, and the Battle Hardened gets 2. And you get coverage of everything, and that would be fantastic.
Awesome.
It's so much money, but
I want to see it. It's worth it. There's it. Not only you want to see it, but there's people out here who just want to see it. There's competitive card gamers that want to see stuff like that, and it really sells the game.
That's another thing that like LL needs is if you're gonna run Battle Hardens of it on Sunday of these big events, have coverage of it somehow. And I know we got the finals of the last one in LA, and I don't know where that ended up actually, off the top of my head. But like,
I didn't even see it.
It was in the feature match area.
I guess so.
I know that. Like the finals of the calling was also in the feature match area. But you need to have coverage of the LL events if you're gonna also get more
If you can get
attention
people
on
on that, yeah. But I
Yeah.
think skirmish is a good place to start, right? You start like
Skirmish is
I don't
also
I
a
don't
good
want to
pla-
say
It's
I don't want to say grassroots, but it's a smaller. People
yes, they're
get
your
to the
local
feel of
events.
it. Yeah. Imagine your store's just like, okay, skirmish this year is going to be LL, and then you're just like LL. Oh, I haven't, I haven't played Icelander in a while, and then you bring that deck out, and then you get familiar, and you're like, oh my gosh! The first time you look at the ban list for LL, and you're just like, what the frick is this? And
Yeah.
you get a little prepped for it, even as a casual player. It's an interesting shift, and I think it will definitely help the format. I think that's it. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Um,
You're just looking
I
for
think
the
I'm.
you're looking for the
I was
LL
looking for
game.
it and I can't
Yeah.
find it. I think that's it for the moment. Um, yeah, I'm excited for Amsterdam next weekend. It's gonna be real interesting.
You're on my draft team. I think my draft team is previous world champion Michael Hamilton, previous world champion Alex A,
On
and
Hideo.
you and Mara. I think that's my draft team.
Dope.
Finalist finalist Mara Ferris in
Yeah.
PT3, and what's the title I gave you? History and Trivia Master Kevin Smurf. That is my Pro
Sure.
Tour team, and I'm gonna get so many points in a what's it called? A fantasy draft that I'm actually not
Fantasy league.
participating in.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap it up there. Kevin, do we have any shout outs? What are we doing? I'm getting back into not just this, but I'm also getting back into playing UPF on Tuesdays, live on Twitch. If you want to play UPF on Twitch, I'm gonna be I'm
Casual
gonna be
Fab
doing that.
Discord.
And on the Casual Fab Discord, and we're moving it to Tuesdays because I have had life events show up on Mondays now. And I think that's it. Bye.
Bye.